100 million Americans are expected to be watching the Super Bowl later today. Several million of them will know firsthand just how hard it is to build a championship team. They've learned that the hard way by playing an online sport that could be called fantastic. Emphasis on that word, fan. Our cover story is reported now by Mark Strassman.
For millions of football fans, the team that really matters won't be playing in Super Bowl 49. This team is not even real. But the season-long anguish over it sure is.
Marquise Colston.
Andrew Luck, number 63.
Mike Wallace, Miami.
It's fantasy football. More than 27 million Americans now play in leagues, and it generates more than $1 billion every year.
It's important to formulate some kind of strategy.
Fantasy football is so real, it has revolutionized the way fans watch the NFL.
Now let's send it over to Matthew Berry. Matthew, what do you got for us?
We met a 45-year-old guy who has built an empire on fantasy.
My name is Matthew Berry. I am ESPN's senior fantasy football analyst.
And that's actually a job.
Yeah, I know. You look at the business card and you're like, really? I'm surprised as well. I'm just as surprised as you that it's a real job, but that is my actual title.
It wasn't Matthew Berry's dream job because back when he was dreaming about jobs, this one didn't exist.
Okay, Magic gets Kelvin Chapman, second base.
Berry started playing fantasy sports as a 14-year-old growing up in College Station, Texas.
It wasn't for everybody.
Oh, of course not. No, it was very niche, very sort of nerdy. This is before personal computers were commonplace, so you did your stats by hand. You know, I was a bit of an outcast as a kid, so I was looking for, I think probably like a lot of 14-year-olds, looking for something, anything, that just wanted me to be a part of it.
Berry moved to Hollywood after college and became a successful screenwriter, but realized he was living someone else's fantasy.
You're making good money, and you kicked it all aside.
I was miserable. I was miserable. So there was a website that was looking for writers online, and I emailed them in, and I said, hey, you know, I'm a professional writer living out here in Hollywood, but fantasy sports is my passion. I love it. And I think it'd be so much fun just to do a column on the side. You know, could I just try out?
His timing was perfect in 2004 when he launched 2 fantasy websites. Fantasy football was taking off.
Hey, it's Matthew Berry with the Fantasy
In 2007, ESPN hired him as the expert for its emerging fantasy market.
It's super simple. Basically, you draft real-life NFL players. And how well those real-life NFL players do in their real-life NFL games is how they perform for your fantasy team. That's it in essence. It's super easy. Real-life players, their statistics in real-life games is how well they do for your fantasy team.
Say you drafted quarterback Aaron Rodgers with the Green Bay Packers, and some Sunday he throws 4 touchdown passes. Even if the Packers lose, his individual statistics help your fantasy team win.
It's a gift and a curse, man. I must say that.
Antonio Gates, he's number 85, is an all-pro tight end with the San Diego Chargers and a star on thousands of fantasy football teams. He says fantasy football has its positives, more interest in the game and in his performance.
The negative is that you got tens of thousands of people who think they can say stuff to you like they're a general manager, you know? So when you're at the gas station, people are like, man, I had you last week. I told you I needed another touchdown, you know. Oh, I got you coming up. I need you to play big. I'm telling you, the fantasy is so big now, where now I've witnessed guys feeling down on themselves because of what fans had said about what they're doing to their fantasy league.
Oh, that's not a bad pick for me.
Just like these guys in New Jersey,
I'm going to avoid running backs and wide receivers for the moment.
Players in fantasy leagues all over drafted NFL players before the season began.
Get it done this year, buddy.
And competed, often fiercely, over the next 5 months.
Who was playing fantasy football?
Everyone.
Everyone.
Everyone's playing fantasy football. Kids play, moms play, grandmothers play, priests, rabbis, and ministers. Sounds like the start of a bad joke. It's actually 3 different leagues I know about. Jay-Z plays, celebrities play, convicts play, casino owners play, servicemen play, professional athletes play. Seriously, you name it, all walks of life, they all play.
80% of fantasy players are college grads, and a fast-growing segment, 20% of all players, are women.
Alrighty, I'm Kate Larson, and my team is Fumble in the Jungle.
I'm Karen Housley, and my team name is Team Housley.
All right, I'm Amy Koch, and it's Game of Thrones.
Carrie Rude, and I have Rude's Rebels.
Taylor Poss, and I'm Sax and the City.
Meet the Gridiron Ladies, an all-women's fantasy league in Minnesota. There are a dozen NFL fans who knew each other working in state politics.
There's more than one pick. There's 11.
3 years ago, they launched a fantasy league.
We are pretty big football fans, go Vikes. And we thought, you know, why not learn a little more? And the first year it was pretty small, and it's been growing since.
What's been the big surprise for you?
I think just how social it is, the fun that we have in our group text, and you are checking your phone or you're plunked in front of a TV, and wherever you go, you drop in, you know, how is Andrew Luck doing?
How competitive is it?
These girls?
We might be a fight later, depending on the outcome of the game here.
I don't even play fantasy football anymore, so.
So I guess, you know, you wouldn't mind if I start dropping a couple players, huh? It wouldn't bother you. Just get rid of Drew Brees.
Drew Brees.
Get rid of Dez Bryant.
The FX network has a show called The League, now in its 6th season. It follows a fantasy league and a group of high school buddies who will do anything to win.
Yeah, we always say to enjoy the league, you don't have to know anything about football. You certainly don't have to know anything about fantasy football. You just have to have friends that you hate.
What do you say, wife and kids?
Jeff and Jackie Schaefer, the show's husband and wife creators, write and direct the show. They also compete on set in a fantasy league.
A part of publicizing the show is telling the truth about the current standings of the league's league.
Yeah.
And I can only just tell the truth.
There's not an interview that goes through where she doesn't get to crow about the fact that she's in first place.
To the Schaefers, the show, like any real fantasy league, is partly about football, but mostly about camaraderie and human nature.
And people are terrible.
Whiners, cheats.
People are the worst. They're crybabies, they're complainers, they're devious, and you get to do this for the smallest stakes imaginable.
Tonight in Arizona, the Patriots and the Seahawks will play for the Lombardi Trophy. In Minnesota, the Gridiron Ladies played for a different prize.
Does the trophy have a name? Is there a Lombardi Trophy?
It's the heel.
The heel.
It's the heel. This is our trophy, so I'm sure this will be around my house for a few more years.
It's moving up north.
Right now, it's staying right here.
Corinne Housley won the heel again this year. It was important to her that we tell you that. And Matthew Berry understands it. Jay-Z asked for his help drafting a fantasy team.
So if sports are a metaphor for life, what are fantasy sports a metaphor for?
Life but better.
Life but better.
I believe we are a country that likes to root. That I just think as a people, whether it's for the guy to get the girl in the romantic comedy, whether it's for the mom to win the dishwasher on the game show, whether it's for our fantasy football team to score more points than your fantasy football team, ultimately we are a country that really just likes to root for something.
Matty Ice.
And there's nothing better than selecting your own group of players and saying, you know what, I think mine are better than
You
yours.
scored 30 or 40 goals in U7 soccer that season.
Ahead, hooray for Hollywood.